Alright guys, you got your boy Stingren here today, and today we're back with some reverse 1999, and today we're here to talk about Liang Yue's best teams, as you guys have been pinging me about. I'm sorry I did not get to this immediately. I've been a little bit busy with my new job, but I'm finally here to drop off the teams for Liang Yue. So these are going to be the teams that I recommend you should take with her at pretty much all stages of content, and I'm going to be providing some options as well as for some other units that can really work with Liang Yue. But anyway, let's get right into it. Let's talk about some of those teams in this video. So starting off with the first team. Alright, so the first team here is going to be the de facto best team, I feel, for Liang Yue, honestly. This is our de facto best team, honestly. The real reason why is because, well, one, Flutter Page is an insane unit for Liang Yue. As I mentioned before in my tier list video, if you have not watched that yet, or by chance it's not uploaded before this video comes out, I don't know how I'm going to be doing it this time, but the really good synergy here for Flutter Page and Liang Yue particularly is that Flutter Page is giving her not only extra damage boost because of her field effects, but she's giving her +1 AP. Liang Yue is a unit that really wants to cycle her ultimate as quickly as possible. If you have her at just P0, that can be tricky because you only really have 2 turns. And if you aren't able to cycle her ultimate, then she loses a lot of her buffs that she would get from said ultimate. So it gets to be a little bit yikes if you're not able to consistently hold it up. So Flutter Page does help with this because this also allows for you to have the extra ability to do other actions with other characters, so that way you can keep the overall flow of your team going without necessarily giving up a buff, giving up a potential to heal, giving up anything within that type of field, or having to maybe risk that you survive a turn because you just don't have the AP needed. At bare minimum, you should always be at least using 2 skills on Liang Yue every single turn, or even 3 if you can provide to do that, provided that you are able to keep the extra action going from Flutter Page, so that way you can consistently just get into ultimate. You need to have that ultimate going all the time. You do not want that ultimate to drop under no circumstances, and Flutter Page, quite frankly, is kind of the best unit that kind of helps with that effect because of the extra AP. So there's that. And of course, again, we should not disinclude her massive damage bonuses she can give because of her field. So there's that. Next up is Fatutu. Fatutu is the best sustain you can run with her because of her Spirit Shell effect. As you guys see here, Spirit Shell gives you extra damage dealt and critical damage for when being attacked with an extra action, which you know Liang Yue is all about triggering extra actions because of how she is played. So Spirit Shell on her would be absolutely insane for the extra damaging effect. Also, this also removes the need from running a healer because you can always heal off of extra times whenever you hit the Spirit Shell itself. So that means whenever you retrieve that shell from hitting an enemy, whether it be from follow-up or just regular damage, you're healing yourself, which is good because that kind of cuts down on the amount of actions that you need. You do still have access to a healing effect, which is this move right here, so that's still really good. So even if you needed like a big emergency heal, Fatutu can help you out with that just fine. So that's really just the cool thing about that, is that she can provide a lot of extra damage boost with giving enemies a lot of spirit shells, which then Liang Yue can come in and swing for a lot of extra damage because of those spirit shells, and that's really cool. So there's that. Mercuria is by far her next best support option. Reason being is because obviously Mercuria kind of buffs up everything that a main carry would want. I mean, I've said this many times when talking about Mercuria, but the big reason why is because of her buffing skill, which gives crit rate plus 20%, critical damage plus 30%, and her cosmic energy effect also gives damage delta bonus, and depending on the effects that she has on her field currently, she can give things such as Incantation Might, which is big. That's something that Liang Yue really wants, is Incantation Up, because having Incantation Up is basically the bulk form of her damage. her damage comes from incantation skills. You don't really care too much about ultimate because her ultimate really just sets up the field and recycles the field, and the ultimate itself doesn't deal that much damage. But her skills is where, and well, her skills and her follow-ups, I should say, should be your focal point when looking to deal proper damage with Liang Yue. Those are her strongest ways of getting off the damage, especially her Red Talon skill, which has built-in critical damage conversion, which is insane. They have really high modifiers of 400% on both red and green. I think the in-between one is less, but it gives you a bunch of really cool effects, so still not bad at all. But still, 400 modifier it on her red and green talent skills is fairly strong. So yeah, but that's why you want someone like Mercuria. You could argue Lepera too. Lepera also helps in this particular case, as I always recommend. Mercuria and Lepera are kind of interchangeable with one another for what they're trying to do. Lepera buffs up ultimate might, but again, that's not necessarily needed for Liang Yue, honestly. She still does buff up incantation might. She still does give critical damage and critical damage and critical rate, and she also allows for overflow. Now, if you're going the red talon route, which is what most people do if you're DPSing more with Liang Yue, then you don't really need it, because Liang Yue's critical conversion rate is a 1-to-1, similarly to characters like Winsong. So not really, you don't really need the quote-unquote extra crit rate value from Lepera. So if you're able to cap naturally with Mercuria, with her own cube, with other bonuses included, then you may not necessarily need Lepera. But if you don't have Mercuria, then don't be afraid not to use her anyway, because that's still extra value that you're getting off the conversion, because you're still getting a lot more critical rate out of it. So don't be afraid to really use it. You know what I mean? I just think that Mercuria fits a little bit more comfortably because of more focused buffs, as in she's gonna give you incantation might so long as you keep her at a certain amount of cosmic energy, which is why I recommend her more so over Lepera. So there's that. But that's going to be really just the key team there. Is Flutter Page for her insane +1 AP effect, damage delta bonuses effect, for Tutu for being the sustain of the team, the extra amplifier of critical damage and damage delta on enemies when attacking into them with Spirit Shell, and of course a healer. She does pretty much everything that you'd need, honestly, for being a sustain and healer and support all in the same time. And of course Mercuria for a critical rate, critical damage buffs. I said critical rate twice, Lamau, but critical rate, critical damage buff, and the incantation might bonus as well. And I mean, I guess you can also kind of throw in her small heal off her other skill too, which, you know, helps kind of. Anyway, that's gonna be the first team, and I'll go over to the next team. Alright, so coming in next is going to be with Anjo Nala as a pairing. So before people throw tomatoes at my face and tell me what a dumb idea this is, I really want you guys to hear me out on this one, because Anjo with Liang Yue isn't the worst thing. There are some considerable things that do make it a little bit hard to trigger, and I am going to try to explain my best way to try to kind of overcome that issue. So let's kind of get into what's the first main issue here. So the first main issue with pairing her with Anjo is, of course, not necessarily the pairing. The pairing itself is fine because it's star. This gives Anjo AoE follow up. This gives her AoE disruption with her unique debuff rather, and this gives her a strong follow up too, because Liang Yue is a fairly active unit. The problem here, and the big reason that a lot of people are saying maybe you should run her with Anjo, is how Anjo's ultimate works. So Anjo's ultimate puts her into a channeling state, channeling effect, right? Where for that first round you channel, and then the next round is where the selected ally would do their ultimate first, then she does her ultimate after. So the problem with this is, with particularly P0 Liang Yue, that gets to be a little bit tight on rotation, because as I explained earlier in the first team, you really want to put yourself in the situation where you are always in ultimate. You always have your field effect up. You always have it going. You know what I mean? You always, whenever opportunity is available, and just within a 2-turn like cycle, that can be really tough. So that's why we did pair the partners that we did pair with Anjo to help. You know, Vila does actually have an effect off of her ultimate where she generates a versatile card, which can give you Eureka or Eureka and Moxie +1. Traditionally, you try to use it on herself because that way it gets her easier into rotating back into her ultimate because you want her to be an ultimate most of the time. But if you really want to just take a turn to pass off to Anjo, so that way you can get just an extra Moxie for her, it's still good. And of course we have Flutter Page for +1 AP, which means you can use skills on Anjo as well. So that way you can also give Moxie as well. That's kind of just the general idea I was thinking about with making this team. Is you're trying to provide yourself with as many valuable options as you possibly can to make sure that Anjo can cast that ultimate and keep Liang Yue's effect on her fields going. Because remember, if she loses those effects off the field, then it's kind of bad. So you don't want her to have this effect. So let's break down the teammates. Let's understand how this works. So with Anjo, Anjo obviously is going to act as your secondary DPS. You can either go main or secondary for Anjo. It doesn't necessarily matter. Both of them will deal considerable damage with each other. So it's not necessarily whichever more does the more damage. It's just, you know, damage. So both of them are really good. Both of them are going to have really good triggers. So with Quan Lang and Liang Yue and Anjo kind of going off all at the same time for damage, you can really shred through a lot of AoE enemies in the game. And provided that a lot of the content in the game is AoE, that's a really, really strong combination. So that's why I do kind of like them together. Of course, she has the ability to put an enemy in the titillated status effect, which is once you get after 2 attacks or 3, I think it is at P0 Anjo, then they go into captivated, which means they won't be able to act. That's a really good disruption effect for regular enemies. It works really, really good in most stages. Even Reveries actually is susceptible to being captivated. So that means you can 100% kind of just breeze through certain forms of fights with that. Of course, Anjo actually has a bit of other synergy with Liang Yue as well. Remember when I talked about her green talent effect where it provides negative statuses such as burn, poison, and rigidity? Well, that actually powers up Anjo's ultimate because it is based on the amount of negative statuses that is on an enemy, and burn and poison are considered burn, poison, and rigidity are considered as negative statuses. So you can use that as a way to power up Anjo's ultimate alongside her own natural way of powering up ultimate because she puts down debuffs on her own from a collection of debuffs. So that's still really, really nice, and that's really, really good. So there's that. So we already talked about Flutter Page, but obviously +1 AP, very important. Extra damage dealt on field, which is going to be great for the both of them, and so on and so forth. We don't really need to dive in. We just talked about this. Vila is really good too because again, her versatile card when she's in ultimate, where she can give +1. She can give +1. I believe it's here. Here it is right here. She can grant +1 Eureka and +1 Moxie to a target ally at no AP cost, which is really, really strong. Also, her special unique song, which gives the extra modifier buff for incantation skills. And since all of Liang Yue's effects are considered as incantation skills, they are directly influenced by this buff, which means you can give a nice strong buff of anywhere up to 120 to 200%, because I think all of her follow-ups are tier 2 if I'm not mistaken. So it could be 120 and it could still be 200% off of her main skill, which is I think it's a 500% base mod skill with 80% pen rate, giving it another 200%, making it 700, which is kind of you know, kind of strong. And of course, Vila will also be able to function as your healer as well, as always. I mean, it's always the same units with these type of team builds, but still, you're looking at some of the better options. These are still going to work just fine. But yeah, that is what I recommend for a team if you're kind of running her with Anjo. Just know that it isn't as flexible as the first team. The first team works beautifully, I feel. There's really shouldn't be no way you shouldn't have enough time to get your AP filled up. But this is still a really good secondary option that can work in content too. So without that, I'm going to start talking about some potential other options that may not necessarily make the cut for the main two teams, but still potential units that can work really well with Liang Yue. So I'll be right back in just a moment. Alright, so this is going to be the part of the video where I recommend some units to you guys. Now these are not the best options. These are just more so options that can synergize pretty well with Liang Yue. Now Liang Yue does have a fair amount of units that really do make her work, but of course as a part of the main two teams I talked about earlier, those are her best options. Those are the options that you can easily throw onto a team and say that that's all good, that's all dandy. And yeah, but if you don't happen to have some of the other units that's in the main two teams that I recommended, then you can use some of these units to kind of help fill in the void, to at least provide a stable use of Liang Yue for content. So there's that. But if you don't have Flutter Page, it can get a little bit tough. I am just going to be honest with you and just saying that. I don't want to mislead anyone saying that, oh, you're fine without Flutter Page, because I think she's pretty much essential for Liang Yue in my honest opinion. But again, that's just how I feel about it. But again, let's get right into it. Let's talk about some of these other units. So for 5-star options, would I actually say Necro's fine. 50% damage up, 50% damage dealt up if you have her at P5 is still always, it's always been really strong. She also does have a little bit of healing if you give her the cube, which is, you know, something. But really the only thing there is just that and the spell effect that it has. So that's really just it. It's either the spell and it's of course this big buff right here, and it also gives you access to prayer, which of course means that you can't die. You basically get an Angel Idol effect where you will take a fatal hit and then you'll still be around, which is still something. You know, that's still something. Another 5-star unit that I recommend is going to be Barbara. Now, Barbara is really good because of her Dream Visit effect, where she can rank up a card and rank down a card depending on the placement of the card. Unfortunately, it's on the left side. So there is a synergy where you can use Barb to cause a double rank up effect on one skill, right? Which is, again, it's based on the placement of that card. So if you're able to, if you have the right side, you know, that right side of your incantation field, you can do Barbara's effect to cause that card to rank up, which effectively means you can give Liang Yue a tier 3 cast of a skill pretty much as long as Barb is in her ultimate, which is pretty cool. You can also use this as a way to forcibly make a rank 2 out of the green talent effect if you really wanted to make utilization of that for a different character. That's also something that you can do as well. It's a really funny combination that works, but it's something that she can do. She also provides a barrier, which is not bad. I mean, not a barrier, a shield, which is not bad. So that's something that she can also do. But yeah, for all intents and purposes, I do think that Barb actually does have some synergy with Liang Yue for the ranking up effect, so that you can get easier access to tier 3s, which again, as I mentioned before with Liang Yue, is plenty strong. So yeah, I think it's a base 500% modifier with an 80% pin rate, which is really strong. So yeah, really strong. In terms of other rank up options, you can use 6. 6 is still viable for his ability to give Empower Incantation and just extra buffs, and of course cleanse off debuffs on you, which is still fine. But as you guys know, if you reach 5 Eureka on 6, which by using his debuffs or anything like that, then he can give Empower Incantation 1 for 2 rounds to the target. Now, depending on where this lands on Liang Yue's card list, this can of course effectively give her an automatic tier 3 on a cast as well for 2 rounds, which is again something that you can utilize for the effect of getting off extra effects and making her skills a little bit more potent, a little bit more stronger, which again gives her easier access to the 80% pin rate Foundry modifier skill, the stronger buff. Both of her level 3s are actually really strong, honestly, so this gives you just better access to that, and that's just what I recommend there. Another good option is, if you're willing to, getting Anali's Euphoria also makes her a better kind of partner for this. The reason being is because this makes the green talent effect a little bit more potent, because Anali does have access to debuffs as part of her Euphoria. Mine isn't maxed out yet, I'm still working on mine. But as you can see, she can inflict rigidity, poison, and burn as part of her effect. So this means, right? This means with Ana Li, you can actually make utilization of making Green Talon a little bit stronger for Liang Yue, because Liang Yue also has this ability built into her kit. Another unit that has this built in, of course, is the new larger hit that just released alongside Liang Yue. So if you're able to get her, then that's also something that you can also use as well for that particular effect. But Ana Li gives you both a good rank up and the status up effect. So I do actually recommend Ana Li hugely if you do want to mess around with that effect as well. So that's something that you can go there. Argus is also here for a really strong debuff for kind of just boss nuking rather. Her pinpointed debuff, of course, makes the enemy take extra damage taken, extra critical damage, which is also really good. This stacks up fairly quickly because of the incantations that you'll be using. Again, since you have natural access to higher tier incantations because of Liang Yue's field, this is going to make Argus do level 3 Gravediggers pretty consistently, or even level 2s, which is still really strong. This is also going to make a really good dispelling with her, because as you can see, she dispels off of a skill. But yeah, like this is really just what you'd want with Argus, just for the extra effect of the field and the dispelling and just the extra damage taken and critical stuff. There's that. Isolde is also really fine for a support option too, because she does have built-in reality damage shred on her kit, 20% on burnt targets, and also burn being a synergy for the Green Talon, and she has critical damage minus 50% at max, 25% on base, which is still really strong, and of course she has a lot of positive buffs as well. As we talk about, she gives rousing morale on ultimate, and she gives 25% effect whenever she gets into the finale status. So she can give potentially 75%, but 25% every single turn off of your first cast, which is really strong. I mean, it's really strong. It won't really influence her follow up, because she'll act first, then follow up. So the follow up won't really get the power burst effect or the rousing morale. But if you're in a situation where you can kind of double stack, then you could potentially get that. That's just ultimately how it works sometimes. But yeah, those are some options you can run off of the top of my head personally. But if you want my recommendation, I think you should really strive for this team here. This is one of the only few times where I really recommend kind of going all in on a premium team, really, for Liang Yue, just to make her more comfortable. But again, it's not like it's the end of the world if you don't have her exact premium. I think just Flutter Page enough will make Liang Yue more comfortable for you. If you don't have Fujitsu or Merc, then you can still use any of the affirmation other options I've named here, such as Vila or any of these other units here that can act as a really good support option as well. So, but yeah, those are my teams for Liang Yue in the video, and let me know what you guys think. If you have any other teams you want to leave in the comment section below, please let me know. So yeah, this has been your boy Stingren. See you guys next time. Peace.